Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you ever so much for joining us for this second AI Changemakers webinar. We have a fantastic range of guests tonight joining us to talk about coding with Canva. But before we get into that, a little introduction about myself. My name is Alex Gray. I am the founder of something called Deep Professional, which stands for Developing Education Through Enhancing Performance. Originally, one of those concepts and ideas that I set up during COVID and has just expanded more into different avenues. As well as that, I host the International Classroom podcast. And this opportunity to talk to lots of fabulous individuals around the world about all types of things, education, which kind of leads me nicely on to what we want to talk about this evening. Now, this evening, I'll take you off. Sorry, Matt. This evening, we have three fantastic guests, two local UAE teachers here in Christopher Blackwood and Thomas Sale. And we are very, very fortunate to have Matthew Weymss joining us all the way over from Bucharest to share their experience and share their expertise and knowledge and things that they have been doing with Canva. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the three of them in to this so we can get started. Gents, welcome ever so much. Welcome ever so much. That tells you the type of day I've had today. Welcome. Thank you ever so much for joining us on this live webinar. Obviously, there might be people out there who are watching and listening to this who have not come across you before. So just a brief introduction. Tom, I'm going to start from the bottom up. If you want to introduce yourself, sort of like that, Scylla, tell us where you are and, where you come from, love.
Hi, Tom Sale, teacher at Kent College in Dubai in the UAE, primary school teacher of many years, 20 plus years. And this year I've got the opportunity for being the education technology coach and innovation lead. So I'm currently working with FS1 all the way to year 13, looking at innovation and bringing teaching, learning and devices and the use of those into the classroom and raising the profile at the same time as integrating things like AI as well into the classroom.
Amazing. Thanks, Tom. Chris.
Yeah, I'm Chris Blackwood. I've been in the UAE for 8 years now. I was a year 4 class teacher for 7 years, and in the last 2 years, I've taken on a head of digital role at Victory Heights Primary School in Dubai. I've been very fortunate during that time to be able to lead on AI and then introduce innovative technology throughout the school as well.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us, Chris. And Matthew, welcome.
Hi, I'm Matthew Weymss. I'm the Assistant School Director at the Cambridge School of Bucharest. My main area is the secondary. I oversee the teaching and learning in the secondary. And for the last couple of years, I think it's 3 years now, that I've been interested in AI and how we can use AI. I teach computer science, so I've been using technology in the school for years, but trying to see how we can, and I don't want to say the word leverage because that's like the most ChatGPT thing ever, but how you can leverage the use of AI to support teaching and learning throughout the school.
Yeah, you can get away with that term. It's absolutely fine. I think there are certain words that have just been like indoctrinated into vocabulary now, isn't it? That people just say. It's like, where was I? I was in school the other day. My head of secondary said something about being an absolute game changer. And I was just like, when you just hear that vocabulary, it's like such an AI word anymore. Such an AI word. But whilst we have got you here, we're very fortunate to have all three of you. So thank you ever so much for giving up your time on this Monday evening. It would be remiss of me, though, to not have you on here, Matt, and pick your brains a little bit about this EU Artificial Intelligence Act. Obviously, you spoke just the other day with Philippa Wraithmore, who's based here, and then obviously with Dan Fitzpatrick and Al Kingsley himself about this. People in the UAE will have heard potentially about this, and people who are in digital and in AI maybe have started talking a little bit about it as well, and when's it going to come over to the UAE. But for those people who maybe haven't heard too much about it, if you were to summarize this, break it down, give us your elevator sales pitch of what this is in a short time, what would you tell us about it?
It's basically a risk-based approach to AI. So depending on how the tools will impact people's fundamental rights, so in the EU, that would be the EU fundamental rights, and just aligning the use of AI usage against those and impact. Some tools will be minimal risk, like a spell checker, spam filter, things like if you're using chatbots like ChatGPT, they're already telling you they're an AI. So when you're interacting with AI, it should be clear that you're interacting with AI. So there's like a whole transparency layer that sits there. And then you get into the high risk domain. One of the areas that gets called out is education in there, and just specific uses. So if you're using AI during the admissions process or to evaluate learning and the outcomes of learning. For us in the EU, quite often they end up on students' transcripts. If it gave a grade, that might impact someone getting into university if it grades them incorrectly. So it's that rolling impact that AI can have, and just how it might impact their access to education. There's a whole part in Annex 3 about certain use cases, and I think certain tools will need to check themselves, and they will have to see if they fit or they align themselves to those levels of risk in those areas. And if they do a ton of European paperwork where they have to have a conformity assessment, get logged in the EU, and then the school's going to use a particular high risk tool, there's a set of stages they're going to have to go through to say so that they check that that company has done all the things they need to do in terms of conforming with the EU process. And then the school will have to do, like you would do for GDPR. I'm not sure if that reaches over for you guys as well, but you would do a data impact assessment. You do a fundamental rights impact assessment for those tools. And then there's another layer that sits on top of that, which is tools you're prohibited to use. I don't think that's going to impact schools very much because they're linked to very specific use cases that I don't think schools would have invested in AI tools that sit in that area. So high risk is the main one, plus transparency about the use of certain tools, I think, is how it's going to definitely impact schools in the EU.
So we've got Tom and Chris, you're obviously both digital leads within your schools as well. It's like, do you think there's a chance of this act moving over, or these components of it starting to be embedded into maybe the KHDA framework, the ADEC frameworks, or the regulations that we have around AI? Tom, what's your take on this?
I think at some point it's going to definitely come across to the Middle East. Obviously, with the ADEC policies that were released last academic year, they come into force this year. With us being Dubai based, it'd be interesting to see if the KHDA have some policies that they're going to release in like a digital nature. I think the key thing for us as teachers is getting teachers to understand when they're using AI, like Matthew said, about being transparent with it with the pupils, because hopefully it's like a two-way thing, because we're not going to lie about it. The kids are using it now, but we need to somehow not necessarily control it, but have a better understanding of what they're using it for, and is it supporting or helping them? And that whole scale that's come out from Australia about when to use or how to use, and that scale linked to it, I think that's going to be important for teachers to get an understanding of it, and really to focus in on good quality use within the classroom rather than just using it willy-nilly and for this, that, and the other. So I've used like image creation, but I've always told the children that I've created the image. Plus, you get like a stamp on it sometimes when you use like DID. Do all teachers do that? Not necessarily. Similarly, if we're using it within the classroom, if you're going to use it for like a waggle, like a good piece of writing, just make the children aware that you've used it. I think that's going to be the start of it. It'd be interesting to see when it actually comes into Europe and the effect it has on in schools, because at some point I think it will definitely come across and hit us.
Yeah. What's your take on it, Chris? I mean, obviously working prominently in a proper, say, primary school, are you finding, because we've got this kind of misconception that AI is just for secondary students, AI is for older students. You know, is there a place that, are you using AI, maybe teachers or students using it across the primary school?
I think a lot of our teachers are using it. Mainly the most known tools such as ChatGPT will be used to, like what Tom said, to produce waggles for writing lessons and to support with lesson planning. I think the children are using it. And I think as a primary school, I think our biggest challenge is trying to educate, especially our older children that will be going to secondary school soon, our year 5 and 6s, to just educate them how to use it ethically and responsibly. I think that's the biggest challenge, because I think what you can do, you can go on the route of thinking the children aren't using it or restrict them from using it, but I think it's introducing it in more of a child-friendly way. Our children are too young to use ChatGPT, but I think the best thing will be to do is to introduce them to some form of AI. And I love what Tom said about whenever we use it, ensuring we mark it as well, just to give children an understanding that we are using it and when to identify it. So I think within primary school, we do have certain challenges with AI as well, especially I think more with our year 5 and 6 children, because I think they're more exposed to things that are happening within the world. So I think it's more of just making sure that we educate them on how to use it.
Yeah, and that kind of nicely brings us into, it's weird, why is it doing this today? Nicely brings us into the question that we have then about this, and that a lot of the things we talked about there's terms we use, there's ethics, there's obviously policies, there's practice, and that can all be encapsulated into this word of governance. And people have been around probably for the last, however many years, we've had digital side of this, and it's now obviously become quite explicit with AI governance as well. But it's another one of those terms that I think a lot of educators maybe are not familiar with. So, Tom, from your side, if you were to unpack AI governance as a start for us, build this conversation in, like, what does it mean for you in your school?
Ultimately, it's about rules and practices, and about being ethical with it in terms of how and when you're using it. Like I said earlier, it's the transparency we need to have with the children, but in the same respect, they need to have the transparency to tell us. And like Christopher said earlier, the children are exposed to it. The majority of children are already using it. The majority of children are probably quite confident in using it, but not in a really beneficial way, using it as a chat bot to get answers to certain questions, or they're not getting AI to do work for them to support them, like what we're going to show later with the coding with Canva. They're possibly using it as like when we were children, we used the internet to find answers to questions. Children are now probably using AI to find answers to questions. It's almost become like a search engine for them in many respects. The crucial thing for me is, as a school, you've got to make sure that you've got responsibility, safely and ethically all built into your policy, so that it's transparent for both the parents, both the students and the teachers, so that everyone is aware as stakeholders about how you're using AI within your educational sector and within your circumstances itself.
Amazing. Chris, if you were to, let's say, I'm going to use the word improve, but develop Tom in terms of what he said about it. He's smiling at me with that typical teacher now. How can you take his answer and make it better?
I know, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you would add to it, though, that just helps teachers or people who are listening to this and watching this about steps they should be taking or things they could be doing to start to implement these types of ideas?
Yeah. So coming from a primary school perspective, I think it's just getting teachers to understand, I think small things, especially when using ChatGPT, is to not input children's data into it or any type of sensitive data into using ChatGPT. I think that would be the starting base, starting off with how can we use it properly without inputting any sensitive information into it. Then I think that the next step after that would be to ensure teachers are aware of, for example, AI tools that might use its training data to improve its models. So get teachers to understand what AI apps are safe to use for example, we might use it to generate images for lessons. Which AI image generation apps are using that data to train their models. Just having that better understanding of which are the best apps to use that be appropriate for us to input certain information to improve our lesson planning. So I think it's just more about using, like you said earlier, ChatGPT ethically, and having an awareness of which apps are safe for the children to use and which apps are safe for teachers to use within their lesson planning or admin type of work.
Yeah, and I'm going to move to you, Matthew, from secondary as well. There was an article, I can't think who posted it on LinkedIn the other day, and it was talking about the biggest threat now to education. I can't remember the term he used, but it was literally what you described there, Chris, was about educators just uploading data without necessarily realizing it. I can't think what the term was. I'll have to dig out and find that. But do you find from listening to them, and obviously you had the pleasure of listening to Al Kingsley, who's obviously massively into this and knows what he's talking about as well. But do you find in terms of secondary, when it comes to governance, are we in a different boat? Is it slightly different for us in terms of what we're having to do, or is actually it's a through school policy? It needs to be there.
I think it's a through school policy, because no matter what you're going to do with AI, you're going to look at the particular scenario. You're going to look at the tools that you can use for it. If it's going to be something probably, I don't know, for secondary, maybe a little bit more student facing sometimes, but wherever tool or whatever situation, the teachers are going to have to select a tool, assess the risks. That could be that we know there's bias in there. We know that when it generates image, they might represent societal bias, and how we can mitigate those ourselves before that goes in front of students. But one thing that sometimes gets missed is kind of the ongoing oversight of this, or if, for example, the waggle that's given to students isn't of a high quality, or if it misleads them, or if there's something that the teacher didn't check it correctly. How do you address that issue? And also, how do students or parents, especially maybe if AI ultimately grades work in the future, what's the path for parents to kind of come back on that? What redress do they have? How can they have those conversations back with the school where maybe something that was generated by AI didn't quite hit the mark? And having that conversation and just really being open with the entire community, I think.
Yeah, I think there's 3 fantastic pieces of advice for people to take moving forward, and kind of looking further ahead into the 25, 26 year as well, as we start to get to the end of the school year, and we're everyone's a little bit tired, but we can't all help but thinking ahead. These are great pieces of advice of things that you want to be doing if you're going to be implementing AI into the next year. And speaking about things that we want to be doing to help implement AI into the next year, we are now going to showcase some examples. The name of this is to do with coding with Canva. I said that to one of my kids and they started singing to me about cooking. If you know, you know. Sort of laughing away. Tom knows, he's laughing. But Chris, I'm going to ask you to go first. And obviously with this, the theme is about just showcasing what it is that you've been able to produce with for school with Canva, and taking us through sort of the steps of how we do this, because the Canva AI is still relatively new, isn't it, in terms of thinking about how long it's been around, and still exploring the types of things we can do, and seeing where the walls are to break. I think that's the key thing at the moment in terms of testing. So Chris, I'm going to ask you to kick us off with this, if you want to share your screen.
No worries.
And then we can let you get started.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep,
Yeah,
we've
perfect.
got you there.
All right. Amazing. So I'll just start off with the steps that I take to just generate ideas before I input anything into Canva. So I think it's really important to have some sort of clear learning goal at the back of your mind before you actually generate anything. It's what is the learning outcome you want to get from this resource. So usually I might just put a prompt into Claude or ChatGPT just to help with my thinking process before I start building anything. So I might just say, you are going to help me generate a math quiz for children in year 5, let's say, using Canva Code AI. Might say something like, you are an expert at using Canva Code AI when generating your response. Take into account Canva AI code's capabilities and context window to ensure we have a fully functional application. I might say, for example, ask me questions before generating if you are unclear of anything or about anything.
So people are going to be seeing this and saying that why have you put before in bold?
Just to make sure that if it's really unsure about what I'm asking it, that it should ask me questions just so it gives me the output that I want, rather than just producing anything and then I'm kind of asking Claude, why have you given me this? Or just to make sure that it fully understands what I'm requesting it to do for me. Then I'll Because one thing I found is just to make sure to get the best output. As I think, as we all know, is about putting in the prompt and just being really clear about what we're asking the LLM what to do. So he's asked me what's the quiz content is, the format, the visual design functionality, and the integration. And this will just give Claude a better idea of what I'm asking it to do. So I might say it's so now instead of it generating me a maths quiz on anything, I'm going to say it's on number 1, multiplication. I'll say for the question type, I want multiple choice. And then the sign, I'm going to say interactive for primary school children. It's about the spellings. And then functionality, I'm going to say I want feedback at the end, just to give the children that immediate feedback so they can see what they have been able to get right and wrong. And I think that's one of the beauties of using Canva Code, because in a traditional classroom, unless you're working with a group or you're able to get around to certain children, that feedback might be delayed. Whereas with this, if you can give the feedback at the end of it, they're able to get that immediate feedback and see what they have got correct and incorrect. So I might say feedback at the end of the quiz. I find that you're doing it is great. Yeah. So I might just do that, and I'm just going to see what it generates for me. I'm going to stop that.
That's
and
sometimes
say,
one of the challenges with Claude is it just wants to go into coding, doesn't it?
I know, yes, it happens to me so many. But I find Claude is, because I use ChatGPT sometimes, but I also find Claude can be it's able to produce way more what I want from it when I use Canva Code. Came up with a prompt for Canva AI instead of producing and
so whilst you're doing this, I'm gonna throw you off and ask you questions, because there's going to be people also going, okay, well, we're going to use Canva AI. Why are you writing the prompt? Why are you using a different AI to then put it into Canva? Does Canva not do this for us? Like, so what's the rationale? Why are you using Claude to do this?
It's just more of me to because sometimes I do go straight into Canva, but it's just more of me to have a clear idea and thinking in the back of my mind of what I want to produce. Because I'm able to then go for it now and see 10 questions. Each question covers for year 5 level, that the signs can be bright and colorful. Around the corner is going to have a progress bar on it, and I can also change that and say one of the ones that I've made has an avatar, and just make sure that what I'm asking Canva AI to produce, that it's producing something decent for the children to use as well. So I might then go over to Canva Code and then put that in, and then it would then generate an output. It does take a while to make. So I'll just show you also through that some of the applications I've been able to make from it.
This is your Blue Peter moment for those people old enough and to know what we mean. It's the here's one I've made earlier moment. So we've got then. So just to take, we're just going to backtrack. So we've done the Claude. We've got the code from Claude.
Yeah.
Obviously, we put that into the prompt, as it were. We put it into Canva. Now Canva's a little bit slow. And what you're showing us then is using the same method. In other words, like I've approached it the same way. This is the type of thing we can produce.
Yeah. So it's made
amazing.
This GL mental maths quiz with me. Anyone knows with the GLs in the UAE, trying to create that realistic, trying to make it realistic for the children has always been quite difficult. Whereas through Canva Code, we've got a tool to help us reduce that gap between trying to get something where we couldn't produce in the past to trying to produce a realistic GL assessment for the children to use. Because in the past, one of the challenges was, can we get the kids to do it online? But now they can with Canva Code, and it reads the question for you.
You can
And
hear
it
it
gives us,
briefly, yeah.
yeah, it gives us putting the answers. And then through that, I've been able to make like popular topic within primary schools is the rainforest. So this is more of like a retrieval activity, something that can be given to the kids at the start of the lesson, like a sort of your traditional retrieval practice, where the kids, where you might just go through questions, they could just come into the classroom, have a rainforest escape room, start the adventure, click for animals that live in the canopy layer, monkey, toucan, and a sloth, and they can just quickly work through this. And then at the end of it, it will just give the children feedback on what they've produced as well. It could also be done for reading. I think one of the challenges for a lot of schools is trying to engage boys with reading. So with Canva code, you can make reading passages and create some sort of reading assessment. And this one's quite cool because when you click on the word, it will just give the children the vocabulary on it. And then a lot of the children in the UAE are massive fans of Mohammed Salah. So it's another great way to engage them as well. There's also an escape rooms, reading assessment on Mo Salah again, because the kids at my school are massive fans of him. So the kids can just read the text, and then whenever they're ready, they can begin the mission, and they can just answer questions about Mo Salah in a more engaging way compared to the traditional way of doing things. And yeah, here it is. Here's the quiz that was generated for me. And you can even go back in here and ask it extra questions on, can you add this? Can you make it more interactive? And it just does it there for you straight away.
And in terms of then, just as a final question, final step, we've seen this, we've got really, really great examples. Thank you so much for sharing. We've made this, or you have made this quiz for us.
Yeah.
How do you then get it so that students can obviously access it? How do we go about doing that?
Yeah, so you click on here, use in a design, then you click on website, and it'll just load it into your normal Canva interface. And then you click on the button at the top here that says publish website. And then you click on publish. And it takes about a few seconds for it to load up.
Yeah.
And then most schools in the UAE, the kids use Seesaw. So you can just copy that link and then put it straight onto the children's Seesaw page. And the good thing about Canva AI is that it formats it for you for desktop and for mobiles as well. So that's the great thing about it.
Wonderful. Chris, as a kickoff to this and showcasing, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you ever so much for showcasing those ideas. Great to see. I've walked away with something like that in terms of now you thinking about how I can use Claude, because I've always just gone in and used Canva and started typing away thinking, I can describe it and it's come out good enough, or what I think is good enough. But having seen that approach now and that ask me questions part, that was really insightful. Thank you so much for kicking it off for us. I really appreciate it. Tom,
follow that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. Hopefully you can see it.
I'm going to add it. I will add it now.
Go.
There we go.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll hold my hands up. I saw a LinkedIn post about using Canva AI and coding. Never really thought about using it, so I thought best thing to do, just go ahead and play. I like what Chris said. For years, I've been trying to replicate the GLPTM test, because in the UAE, they do a mental maths test. The children have around 5 to 10 seconds to answer a question, and then the screen just changes. So for years, I was doing it on PowerPoint, but obviously couldn't get the timings right, and it just didn't work. And then I saw a post by, I think it was Kieran Burrell up at Deer International and Chris, and they'd done something to do with spelling games and working with the inclusion team. So I just played because you can't break it, which is a huge thing, and you can't really do wrong. And this was many iterations, so it was just a real simple quiz. Like Chris did, I had some avatars, but I gave the instructions to the children. But then I kind of took it a step further, because then I went from just what I would call a simple screen. I then went to creating a time teller challenge. So the challenge itself then was, I work and support classes across school, and I was asked if I could just jump into a year 3 class because the teacher wasn't going to be in. And she said they wanted a quick recap on o'clock, 1:45, 1:15, and 1/2. So I literally just created the game 10 minutes before going into the lesson. And it was a little retrieval activity to get the children going. And like Chris says, we've got Seesaw at school. So I cheated. I made a QR code and the children just scanned it straight away because it just pulled them straight into the website. Because like Chris says, once you publish it, it's just good to go. And then that got me thinking, because frustratingly, you've got all these lovely resources, but I was never getting any information or any data back from it. So then, like I said to you earlier, I was playing at the weekend and I started thinking about the English Year 6 spellings and about the possibility of replicating the spellings that the children do in terms of the PTE test, which is the spellings for English. And I created a spelling test, and the prompts here. It's not as fancy as Chris's. I just whacked it straight into Canva. It was lazy man coding, I like to call it. So I just threw it straight into Canva, and I said, look, create me this spelling quiz, national curriculum words, make it interactive, choose a paragraph with the 15 words, because in the PTE, the children get the paragraph read to them, and then have the missing words. You can see it all here, and I'll share it at the end if anyone wants to do it. As for a female speaker, because it needs to be a soft voice, and for each of the words, give the correct number of spaces. So, for example, if it's a word like accommodation, it gave the children a chance because it gave that word the missing words underneath so they could see it. And it literally it does exactly what it says on the tin. So it gives me a paragraph.
During our school trip,
I'll mute that.
Learned about sufficient civilization.
Yep.
Sufficient.
So then it gives me a word at the bottom.
Just pausing on that point, Tom. Like it can that's Canva reading it through. Like if you ask it to do that,
literally, I put I need a female voice, not a male. Clearly that didn't work because it came out as a male voice, but it is reading it to me straight away. And this is literally what the children will have in their end of year assessment. It's a paragraph with words missing. It reads the whole paragraph to the children, and then slightly different to the actual assessment, it gives me the sentence, it gives me the missing word, and it gives me the clue to how many letters are in that word. So the children can literally just go
sufficient,
and then they fire away. And then I really like that because it was in year 6, I used it as a practice benchmark. They were playing around with it in flexi time out here today. And then I thought, right, now, lovely as it is, I don't know what they've got right and I don't know what they've got wrong. And as teachers, we need that AFL, we need that assessment, we need that data. So then I tweaked it again because it was just an extra iteration. And in order to do that, I finished off with creating a quiz that hopefully has a bit of everything. So the quiz itself literally is similar to what you've just seen. Again, it's the 15 words. Again, it'll give a different paragraph, but it uses the 110 or 100 year 5, 6 national curriculum words. I'll just start it.
Especially at our school was
now I've got a female. But at the bottom, it then says submit. So this button here, when the children complete the quiz, they can send it straight to their class teacher via email, and it'll give them that data. So the teachers aren't missing out on everything that the children are doing. And this is just the infancy, because Christopher's already given me 2 ideas that I want to go and try in school now, because I love the idea of an escape room. Never thought of doing that. So I'm going to magpie that, going to reiterate that and use it for something in school. But there's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a brilliant prompter. You don't have to be a coder. Like I said, you can just do the lazy man prompt, type in what you want. It will create one version. Then you can just put, now I need a female voice, does another version, it runs all the code again. And you can keep tweaking and keep editing it until you get it exactly how you want it. And that's exactly all I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 weeks now, with teachers asking me to make resources and sharing it with the children and the staff straight away.
So let's just unpack, if you can, the submit part, because I saw that over the weekend as well in terms of getting data. And it was someone, I think, who was doing again through Canva, but it was connected to a Google
form.
Kind.
Yeah, and then the same one.
So how are you doing this then? How does this work?
So this literally on mine, when it clicks submit, the children just asked to enter the teacher's email, and it will automatically email that information from the results. But I saw the Google form one. I thought, right, next job, I'm going to put it straight into Microsoft Forms because we're a Microsoft school. So I'm going to magpie the information, take the information that he's put to it, and then get it to edit into an Excel sheet so the teacher can use that straight away.
Yeah, that's the next part, isn't it? Because you're right about, I think you're definitely right about AFL side of things, because it's great having these, and I use them as starters for the secondary kids. But then it's like you're going around and you can start to see things, but then the part of you just start to think, okay, I don't quite know how many of you got right or wrong here. So something like that is really, really good.
What I found with the teachers at school, they found it the best time is straight after break or straight after lunch, because in the UAE we've got red breaks, so the children don't go out. Yeah. So just to calm them down, settle them down, get them straight onto task, just something nice and simple that they've just made, linked to the objective or linked to a retrieval activity, just to get them really focused straight away.
Amazing. That was great. Thank you ever so much again. I've got more ideas now of types of things I can be doing and making, even for secondary students. This was fantastic. So exactly what we wanted tonight. So gents, Chris, Tom, as a great start there. Now, no pressure, Matthew, no pressure at all for you at all here, but it now rolls over to you to showcase hopefully just some of the things from an international side as well, which is really good, because it's nice to see obviously what you guys are doing, whether it's any different or the types of approaches you're taking with it in a different school, and getting that viewpoint is going to be tremendously worthwhile. So the floor is yours, good sir.
Yeah, thanks. I think I've got like 13 things to show very, very quickly, because luckily I ran 2 workshops this week. And it was great because I came away with loads of cool ideas just from getting like a maths teacher and a Spanish teacher, an Arabic teacher, Turkish teacher, English teacher, just who aren't really the most techie people to come along and play. And what I did is I created some Canva artifact, I don't know, are the artifacts, apps, website, published things, sent them out via email and say, this is what me and the guy who share an office together have created. You could also create cool things like this really easily. And then I think we had like 25 people over 2 nights came to the workshops. So, and we just played. And again, there's that lull with Canva where they type in what they want, and then you have to sit around and chat for 10 minutes, sometimes write codes.
Tea and biscuits.
Yeah,
just
have
what we
some
need.
tea and biscuits in hand when you're running this. So let me just share my screen. I'll work through because I will just share some examples and some of the thinking behind the examples. Oh, no, need to click a button. There we go.
Got you there. Right, let's add this.
I'll load this up.
There we go.
Can you see it? Is that up?
Yeah, we got it.
So this is just classic water cycle. If you ask ChatGPT to pick something, I was just experimenting, so I asked it to pick something from the Year 4 curriculum, and it always gives you the water cycle. So just creating some resources for the kids. What I did do is figure out you can include hyperlinks. So this would take you to a YouTube video. This will take you to BBC Bite Size. So if you give it some URLs in that block, you can include links to things if you want to make a bit more of a learning resource. So a little quiz here, some activities for them to try at home, a little word search. So all of this was just 2 sentences and 2 hyperlinks, and I managed to give them or create this fictional kind of example. Then I thought about PE, so you can kind of add students in here, and the students could use it to plan their game. A red team, add player, so you can add them to the pitch. You can move them around on here if you want to plan like sports fixtures. And the first version didn't have this, so I just told it the next time to like hover over and show the student's name because it was just doing initials. So I sent that to the sports teacher, and he sent that out as a fun activity. And the students would kind of, again, it's a submission, so they would snip the football pitch area and submit that to him. So it might have some legs for like the sporting subjects as well. This was a simple, just super simple prompt. I just wanted a learning resource on the Silk Road for humanities. And all of this was AI generated. It gave it so little guidance compared to Chris's example. I gave it like, I just want a resource on the Silk Road, please. So all of this, give me this information. Give me some information on different types of trade. A little quiz. This was quite cool as well. Like an interactive timeline where you drag and drop things in, and that judges you at the end, how correct you were. I'm putting them in the order 0 out of 7, terrible. And then, yeah, so linking, it'll show you the links between all these things as well. So all of this was like literally 2 sentences. It was all kind of random. But if I was actually the history teacher, I probably might have crafted this in a better way. Or sometimes it's good for it to be random, to just give you some new ideas. This is something I've played around with today as like a little self-assessment sheet, where the students could tick off that they've included everything and they get a nice little progress bar. Might be nice to build in the AFL submission on this one as well. So a little bit of support. I asked it to build in some challenge as well. So the students could, just something interactive, the students could make sure, and instead of ticking off on a bit of paper, they could tick this off. This was Spanish, so I'm not sure what it says because I don't speak Spanish, but just a simple game made by I did well on that one, much better than the one that was in English. So so it's just a quick little game. Only got 13%. Next set. So there's multiple sets of questions they created. Someone's on tense. Again, I'm not even going to try this part. Again, all this was just a couple of sentences. So all of this was just kind of AI generating what you think would work for the situation. It's a nice little sorting activity where students can sort. This is the primary computer science teacher put this together. Just uses these nice little emojis. This was made by a secondary science teacher where you could do your speed time chart. I'm just going to move things randomly and see what happens. And it would start the simulation and it would map that out. And it would give you different challenges here. You could link it to real world examples and it would automatically make what a kart runner in a race would be, a cycling one, and you could do the simulation. It works really well with graphs because JavaScript can handle those really well. Some teaching here, again, asking it just to include cross-curricular connections and it'll drop those in for you. It's quite nice to spatter those through an activity. This one was really cool, where you could include different commands for the robot, and it made this whole little game where you could move up and down, and it created 3 levels, I think, in this. So you can just do, I don't know, I'm going to make it move. Right. So it did all that himself, just created the entire game for the programming and everything, which is really cool. This one for English, where they could explore quotes from Romeo and Juliet. If it was love, if it was hate. I'm just picking things randomly. I'm not even reading, to be honest. This is something I think that might be really useful, is that to give feedback on assessments. So often the students have got some right, some wrong. So the students could click on number 2 and it would give them the model answer for number 2 and then give them like a challenge task, like a reteach, and like something else for them to do and try to then hand into the teacher to show that they've improved. So we've been experimenting with different ways of using those questions, and again, giving the students a model answer and then a challenge task. So because during an assessment feedback lesson, students might all need to work on different areas. So using this as a way to personalize those resources. And again, these could include hyperlinks that are or links to YouTube videos and things like that as well. And then this is one of the least techy members of staff we have, created this really cool example of a waggle. And then they would go into a practice and have to identify what the sentences were. So if it's simile, metaphor, then they do a creation activity where they pick a situation, do a typing thing, and then it says it analyzes the writing. It does some basic checking to make sure they've used like an onomatopoeia and things like that. I just think it uses, it's not AI, but I think it uses some keywords. And then someone for our year 12s created this IB exploration exercise where the students have an investigation to carry out. They have this matrix to play around with. They have some tasks and questions. They have some theory. And she was very broad and just gave it a few things from the IB framework that they wanted to touch upon in terms of teaching. And this would be something the students would interact with we have 45-minute lessons, so maybe 20 to 30 minutes. They'd explore and use this as a way to investigate and engage with tasks and the different theory. So it was really cool, and I really recommend just getting a group of teachers in a room and letting them run free on it and see what they come up with, because loads of those things I would have never thought of doing. And I think as time goes on, we'll start to see that timelines are cool, this looks cool, charts and graphs are cool, and we'll start pulling on other people's ideas and know that we can really, because it's basically HTML and JavaScript, so we can lean into what JavaScript can do really well and like see how we can pull that across different activities.
What's been the feedback from the staff? Obviously, there's a real broad range of activities there, from simple to complex, but obviously moving, like I say, a week on from that, what's been the feedback from the staff and the impact it's had then in the classroom?
Well, for us, it's revision season for us. So lots of the teachers are making very bespoke revision resources. Might be for the entire class, it might be just for certain students, and publishing them on Teams for them to use and revise from. Again, that thing about using a sheet or a form or something to get the feedback back in, that's new to me, and there's something I'm going to try. But it's going to really allow, I think, the teacher to do the revision. We've got revision week next week where the kids are preparing. So giving them different questions and model answers, something like that, feedback activity, where you can almost get 24 or 25 kids working on different things at the same time in the class. And that's something traditionally would have been very difficult to do. And if it's something I know that certain kids needs extra support the next class, within 10 minutes, I can now whip something up for them and really personalize and publish that so they could practice at home, practice in class. So I think it is a step towards that personalization dream that AI promised us. It's not fully there. It's not that the automated side of it, but I think that it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. I saw someone again post something about, because obviously one of the beautiful things about Claude, or when you're coding with that, is that you can give it data sets. So for me, I'm thinking the same thing as you about feedback, and I might go, well, here's the test my kids did, here's the mark scheme, and we've been there and it can pull out. But obviously you can't at the moment, or I say this at the moment, do it on Canva, but I have seen someone say, no, you can actually start, there's ways to give it data sets, there's ways to implement this information into it somehow.
Yeah,
so
Canva's got something called Sheets now. So that's possibly the way into it. You could probably assign a sheet that you've got your data set in and drop that into your Canva code. That's the homework for all of us tonight.
Well, if you can read back and forth from a Google Sheet, it might be able to read back and forth from a Google Doc and read contents of that. Again, that's me. I've never tried it. I might be speculating. Might waste some people's evening, but it might be able to read from those documents as well.
Definitely.
I know you can do about 500 words. I've tested its limit.
Yeah.
And you can do about one sheet of A4 on a Word doc. That one page of a Word doc it can take.
Yeah. Chris, were you going to say something there, but you were muted, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can link Claude to a Google Sheets to get the data from, for example, if you do an assessment through, if you create, instead of creating on Canva, if you create the same thing on Claude, you can link it through Google Apps Script, the API, and then the data you submit from Claude goes straight into Google Sheets, and then you're able then to pick out all the data on how the children performed in a certain assessment. I tried on Canva over the weekend, but it kept on blocking the data going through to Google Sheets, but you can definitely do it on Claude. If you code it through AppScript and then get the deployment link and then put it into Claude, then you can get your assessment results straight from an assessment if you make on Claude straight to Google Sheets. And that's the way around it of getting those immediate results from any type of data or assessment that you're doing.
There we go. A little bit of homework, and I'm sure someone will come up with it on LinkedIn in the next 24 to 40 hours and tell us all and share it with us. But for now, gents, thank you ever so much for joining me on this Monday evening. It's been massively insightful, lots of inspiration and great ideas to take away and now go and have a play with. And I hope everyone who's watching and listening to this, and even if you're watching and listening to this on repeat, I've kind of been inspired and hopefully, just see how simple it is to go and do it, and really get you thinking about your teaching and your pedagogical approaches and how you can get those students engaged and start to customize and even to an extent personalize the types of things we give them. But as we got last couple of minutes, and obviously some people in the chat, so from Lauren and Todd, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to ask, I'm just going to give a couple of minutes here because we are marching on with time. But if there's any questions you have for the guests this evening, please put them into the comments, and we'll do our best over the next, let's say, 4 minutes or so, because we won't wait too long. Everyone's got evenings to get to, and I appreciate that. But 4 minutes, if you have any questions, please put them in now. And we will do our best to answer them for you. But otherwise, whilst you are thinking of your questions and listening to this, I highly recommend my favorite platform, which is LinkedIn. If you do not follow either of these three gentlemen at this moment in time, I highly recommend that you go and do. Names appear, I think, spelled correctly as it is on there. Just wonderful content being shared and ideas being shared. And as Tom, I think, attested to earlier, just I saw someone post this on LinkedIn and then I went and had a go at it. And I think that's kind of how this is working at the moment. So yeah, let's look at Todd. You've got your question there. Let's bring this one into it. Have any of you created a simple interactive video game? Let's think about that. Tom, you want to start us off?
Not yet.
Yes and no. Yeah, yes and no. It struggles with. I tried to make a platform game. One of the first things I made was my daughter. She loves axolotls, koalas, and huskies. So we had little icons, and you did like a platform game, and it asked questions suitable for a 6-year-old on those things. It does it like a bit thing. The guy falls through the floor and things like that. So and I tried to make a. First thing I tried to make was a World War II trench explorer, so you could walk around the trench and with like labeled up things, but I pushed it too far. I think it'll get there, but it's quite limited, I think, of what it can do in terms of making a full-on video game.
It kind of reminds me, remember the very early like PC games, I can't think what the word's like, but they just move across the screen and they're fighting each other on that kind of 2D axis moving up and down. I can't think what the game's called now, but it kind of, that would be.
I've seen Space Invaders, but I don't know how much pedagogical excellence is in them doing Space Invaders in a random question.
Yeah. I've got Lauren's question here. Let's bring this one in as well. So how far away do we think we are from Canva being able to adapt and build new questions automatically based on students' answers? I think that kind of attests to a little bit what we spoke about earlier about having a data set to pull from. And it'll be interesting to go and play with this and kind of, if you gave it the right information and you could, let's say, hyperlink it to read something on a Google Doc or in a Canva sheet, whatever it is, and it could pull it from there. That would be interesting to see if it could do. But I think
Canva, coding with Canva is literally 3 months old.
Yeah.
It's not old at all. And the amount of stuff people can do with it at the minute. So that's something that I think could be, probably by the time we come back in the summer, that's probably something that will just happen naturally because it just seems to learn so quickly. Like I say, I've just used the lazy man prompt, type in what I want, tweak it a bit more, and then eventually I get it to where I want it to go because in my head I know what I want, but I just need to, without having the expertise of prompting, you can just go about it. And I think that's when, the way Matthew was saying earlier, just give it to teachers. I think once they see the capabilities or some ideas, you'll spark that light bulb and they'll probably create some amazing things. And then at some point, we'll probably hand it over to the children and then they'll do the same.
Yeah. Definitely. One of the comments was the prompts. Katya would love Chris, Tom, and Matthew's prompts. So I will make sure I collect those when we come off the stream. I will get them from them, and I will be able to push them out as well with all this. So anyone who's watched can email and send them through to them as well. But for now, we did 4 minutes of questioning. Ladies and gents, thank you ever so much to our guests for this evening, to Matthew, to Chris, and to Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing absolute insight and wisdom there. Greatly appreciate it from there. Now, from my side, just a few little things. If you are interested in learning more, one of the things we have been doing with Deep and with the Changemakers that we have got here is that we have started to create this Deep AI. And on here, we are going to end up building an AI in Action Hub. If you are interested in taking any of these resources or finding out any more specifically for the UAE, then please come have a look at this. And you can sign up and get sent emails and information as well as we move towards August and the start of the year. One thing I have put out today is an AI parents guide, so specifically aimed at parents of the UAE. It might be one of those things that you've got parents at school or parents who are friends who maybe are struggling with this. This is a short ebook. I say short, it's 112 pages, but there is an ebook there for you, reasonably priced for parents and for schools as well to maybe start distributing out. Other than that, for my obviously selfless plug, thank you ever so much again, ladies and gents, for joining us tonight. Or if you're watching this live or you're catching us on the recorded version, greatly appreciate it. Keep, obviously, say exploring, keep trying, keep pushing, keep playing with these things, taking on board what these wonderful guests have said to us tonight, and enjoy. There's only a few weeks left, obviously, for summer, so stay safe, and I look forward to speaking with you all soon.